Hi everyone, welcome to Murphy's Little Garage. Today we're going to be installing these beautiful BMR CNC'd aluminum adjustable camber arms where camber adjustments can be made on the car with the wheels on. Big deal for your alignment guy. They hate me already, I'm telling you. And the BMR factory camber location lockout kit. Now we're going to have the subframe off because I'm doing KellTrac's diff bushings as well as a Posilock system, so the whole subframe's coming out. And that will allow me to use this extra bolt hole up here for 1,000 wheel horsepower plus car setups to add an extra bolt. But we'll get into that in a minute. Dang it. All right, I'm not going to pretend like you need my help to understand how to jack up your car or take the wheels off. So I'm going to go ahead and get the back wheels off. I'm going to get the whole car picked up off the ground on 4 jack stands because I'm going to need to drop the IRS subframe to do the whole process I'm doing today. But the video that you're watching specifically tailored to one part will address those individually. All right, saved you the trouble of watching it get jacked up and the wheels coming off. All right, and the camber arm you're going to be replacing is this guy right here. It scoops up under the frame rail and attaches to the subframe in here. That bolt back here that holds the upper point on the camber arm on is very, very tight. Be prepared to have to fight that. So this guy right here is what you're taking out. Now, because I'm working on the subframe, I'm actually going to drop the whole subframe out so you can more clearly see this part and what you need to do to line up your new BMR K-member. Your new BMR camber link. All right, those of you who are here to see the BMR camber arm install, here is the camber arm. You can see it very clearly now that it's outside of the car. Here's your spring in relation to it. You can see here that there's a bar here to keep the bolt from spinning, and you've got 2 nuts on either side. They're going to need to come out, and then these 2 bolts will release. Now, before you do this, you need to take a couple of measurements, and these are pretty important because they're going to help you put this back where it is until you can go get an alignment, which I highly recommend even if you get it really close. So I'm going to hook my tape measure under the ear right there. You see how I've got it where it's locked in? That way I can repeat this exactly the same way on the other side. And then I'm going to look down the control arm knuckle right here, and you can see right at 11 3/8. So right here on this flat spot while I'm looking down it. Remember that measurement. Take it for that side as well. These 2 are 1/8 apart from each other. I'm going to split the difference between them and set them exactly the same. Chances are that differences in the spring was sitting a little differently, or the bushings in the upper control arms allowed more movement. Well, those aren't. So split the difference. They should be really close, if not the same. And then we're going to put them back in at exactly that same distance whenever we adjust them. Now, and just for reference, this side is an 18, this side is a 15. Like I told y'all, this sucker right here is going to be very tight, whether it's from the factory, if you have an alignment sense, because if it isn't, this slotted bolt hole will just screw off. It'll slip away. So expect this to be wildly tight. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pull these bolts out and slip this camber arm out, and we're going to go in the shop because we need to make this one and that one exactly the same length. All right, so I'm sorry, I'm going to have to work one-handed here. I've taken the bolt that used to go through the knuckle, and I've got it in the top position instead because it's nice and long, and it locks those 2 into the same position. And what that allows me to do is then adjust the BMR camber arm until these 2 bolt holes line up, and I'm going to slip this one in to confirm that they are exactly at the same distance. Now, and that can slip out, that's normal. Whenever you're doing this, you're twisting the actual eye here, the Heim joint, rather than the adjustment sleeve. This adjustment sleeve and jam nut is only touched by your alignment technician to make a minute adjustment. Right? You only have so much metal into that aluminum there. So we're not going to mess with this. You're going to make all of your adjustment right here. You'll know when you've got this right when that side's bolted together and this side just slips in and out of the hole very easily. And of course, lastly, we're gonna tighten up our jam nut here. Oh, reverse thread. Tighten up that jam nut onto the adjustment sleeve so that this holds still. And go ahead and put, before you tighten this down, a good dab of blue Loctite in here to make sure that this jam nut holds still. Now, if you're not doing the BMR lockout for the factory camber adjustment, at this point is when you just put your stock bolts back in and torque it down and go to business, right? Go to work. But we're gonna put camber lockouts in, and I highly suggest this because even if you put this sucker in here and you go through the trouble of, let's say, adjusting the camber arm to where it's slid all the way back in this eyelet right here, you can see that this has had some forceful movement happen. This car has slipped its camber adjustment before, and that's going to happen if you make a good bit of power, or even not, if you can't get that bolt tight enough, which is really difficult to do inside of the car. So I highly suggest the BMR factory camber lockout, adjustment lockout. We're going to go ahead and install that at the same time as this camber arm. Because the subframe is out, I can drill an extra hole to support 1,000 wheel horsepower. I'm going to do that while I'm here, but you don't have to drop the subframe out to put that guy in. You can just put a single bolt in here. All right, you can see for this sleeve slips on here and gives you 2 solid mounted positions for more or less camber naturally. And then this bolt right here, which is this guy right here, the large silver bolt, fills the hole pretty nice. And one of these large locking washers with a flange on it, that's what's holding that one on. Now I'm gonna put that in position and tighten it down, and that's gonna allow me to drill a hole for this guy, which will also come up through the bottom here, tighten up, and give me 2 bolts to hold this still. And that's just to make sure that under an extreme launch, which this car is clearly capable of, that this doesn't shift. And boom, some quick drill bit action later, and we've got our second lock-in bolt. Also, while I'm thinking about it, don't forget to grease your BMR camber arms. This is really important. Every time you change your oil, you're gonna come grease them again, and you're looking to see some grease squirt out of the sides like that. All right, so the next thing you're gonna want to do is take your measurement again from here in subframe up to the face of the knuckle, and make sure that you're where you're supposed to be. Especially if you're putting this lockout kit, it may have shifted your attachment point up here further this way, which even though your camber arm is exactly the same length as it was before, can shift this out. So you need to make sure this measurement is the same so that your alignment's not royally jacked up. This one ended up basically dead nuts at 11 3/8 where it was before, but I'm gonna loosen this bolt and spin it out a little more and split the difference between these two. All right, and once you've got everything adjusted where you want it to be, it's 76 foot-pounds on this nut and 85 foot-pounds on this nut. The lockout kit has torque specs for this. I just went ugga-dugga and it stopped moving. Very tight. Lastly, this guy right here, this pinch bolt that locks in the adjustment, that is 14 foot-pounds. Do not exceed that. You are screwing into aluminum. I went ahead and coated this bolt in blue Loctite as well so that it won't have a tendency to back out. Jam nut, now is a good time, now that this is pinched down, to make sure your jam nut's nice and tight and that this is going to hold still for now until it goes get its proper alignment. So, ooh, look at that candy. So if you were doing this install for just the camber arms, you're done. Put the wheels and tires back on, go drive the car. As long as you got these measurements right, the car should feel fine. Go get an alignment after this. And you drive a little bit. If you have to go to work or whatever, I wouldn't drive long distances or at high speeds, but probably okay. Go get an alignment. Anyways, I'm gonna move on to putting in the posi locks and then getting the whole rear subframe in. If you're interested in that, check that video out. And just like that, the entire subframe is back in, and you can see here is the camber arm. You can see our bolts back in there, so you can get an idea, obviously, of how much easier it is to do with the subframe out. In fact, let me turn the camera sideways, get a little closer. you can get to them. It's tight. It sucks. So maybe if you're doing your camber arms, drop your subframe and do some other work to it at the same time, or don't and just put the camber arms in. One thing I want to remind y'all, this pinch bolt is 14 foot-pounds. Don't forget to tighten your jam nut here. And just because y'all stuck around to the end of the video, and my son absolutely loves to party. You ready, bub? You want to go fast? All right. Hold on. You had fun? Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, that's it. Thank y'all very much for coming along for part 1 of this video, and that is doing the BMR camber arms and the camber lockout adjustment. Hopefully y'all like it. Worked great on the car. Anyways, thank y'all for watching. As usual, we love you. God bless. Peace.